Hey there, welcome back to another eye-opening episode of X-Raced, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. Whether you're watching us or tuning in through your favorite podcast app, thank you for joining this episode, which is not just business as usual, because we're going to continue to tackle something that should never be treated like just another calendar event. Earth Day. Yes, that one day where everyone suddenly remembers they have reusable shopping bags. But our guest today, he's not here for token gestures or greenwash PR lines. He's been waving the flag for real, measurable, morally grounded sustainability long before it became a corporate buzzword. He's a man who brings over 40 years of seasoned leadership, tough love, and no nonsense practicality to a topic often lost in fluff. As managing director and CEO of ACI Global and e-Quip, he's helped organizations worldwide integrate corporate social responsibility and sustainability into their operations, not just into their slide decks, because these are not extras, they're essentials. And with tools like their ISO Educational Operational Management System and a PESEL informed framework, they're showing organizations how to walk the talk with practical proven systems. So joining us once again, because he always leaves us wanting more, is the straight shooting, system building, truth telling sustainability advocate, Ian Erskine. Hello, Ian. Good morning.
And hello and good morning to you, lovely lady. It's lovely to see you again. And again, this topic we're going to be talking today is very dear to my heart. And we're going to really concentrate on a positive. From
Yes.
a number of negatives, I want to concentrate on a positive and demonstrate to people particularly and their organisations that there is a way that we can look positive on what is happening now and turn that to be a true benefit for our future generations.
Yes, so we're revisiting Earth Day, not to admire the posters, but to actually ask what went wrong, what's still going wrong, and more importantly, how do we fix it? And you're right, let's focus on the positive. So let's get into it, Ian. As Earth Day fades from hashtags to hindsight, you've reminded us that CSR and environmental responsibility is more than just a day event or a checklist. You've long advocated, I know that for a fact, that this isn't just a green initiative, but also a moral and operational imperative. So, how does ACI Global's ISO Educational Operational Management System help organizations move beyond lip service into real common sense environmental accountability?
Well, I think it's beholden on all of us, as we've said many times, that we owe it to our future generations to ensure that we leave this planet in a better way. Now, what I'd like to concentrate today on is our nation's forests. And here Australia can lead the way because in some respects, Australia is very unique. The majority of the forests that Australia has are all oil-based gum trees. Now, obviously, when I mention the word oil-based, that means they're highly flammable. So this is beholden on all of us, and we know these practices because the past bearers of our lands, the Aboriginals, who can show us such a wonderful legacy on how they actually look after their habitat. And that goes from plants to animals to food to the forest. Now, as we all know, that there are situations where we have very serious forest fires, and in that respect, that has taught us a lesson that we have to control the forest. And by that, I talk about controlled burning, controlled forest management and grazing underneath the canopy. And again, I can speak with experience from here because when we had our large dry area property, we had a couple of quite sizable hill ranges. And when we first arrived, whenever it got hot, we did have a couple of quite serious fires started from lightning in those mountains. So we thought long and hard about it. And again, we didn't have too far to go in history, and which taught us that we had to do things to control underneath the canopy. So what we did, we actually fenced off our hill ranges and we put our stock, our sheep, not our cattle, but we put our sheep into the forest ranges to control the undergrowth.
Mm-hmm.
And that enabled us to keep everything under control to such a point where when we did have the lightning strikes during dry times, thunderstorms come and so forth, yes, we did have some ignition, some fires did start up, but they very quickly stifled themselves because
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing there for them to burn, for it to burn. And that's one of the key lessons I want us to take away today is we can manage, and I hate using these buzzwords like green energy, greenwashing, climate
Mm-hmm.
change. They're all buzzwords. What we are talking about here is environmental sustainability. The key
Yes.
word is sustainability. We must maintain our forests. We must maintain our food supply, and part of that food supply is
Mm-hmm.
livestock, sheep and cattle, pigs, and so forth. But we never had any pigs. We didn't have the land for little piggies, but we certainly had the land available where we were able to clear responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had forests or trees on around all our paddocks and our fence line, and that enabled us to control any dry dust that came when it got very dry. But again, going back to what I said, it's all about sustainability. We must go away from talking about green initiatives and things like that and talk purely about environmental sustainability.
Mhm. Got that. It's clear you're calling for more than surface level efforts, Ian. You're pushing for deeply integrated, proven systems. So, from your experience, what are the most common blind spots companies fall into when attempting to embed environmental sustainability into their strategy? And how does your PESEL informed EOMS shift them from the checkbox compliance to meaningful change?
Well, quite simply, and this is the one that puts a big smile on my face because I love doing it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Whenever our candidates start down this journey of professional development and accelerating continuous improvement, I do challenge them, and particularly when we're talking about sustainability. Quite often I'll hear them say, well, what does that really mean? I hear a lot in the press and social media and so forth. And again, I try to make it very simple. And sustainability is all about the ability for ourselves to survive and enjoy life. And above all, again, we go back to that point where we can hand on heart say that we leave this planet in a better way. And, then the questions flow. How do you think you can do that? And quite often I hear, oh, look, I just go to work every day and come home. There's not much I can do. Well, as you know yourself, you have a garden at home. You maintain your garden so that you're not getting overgrown bushes which create dead wood within the tree itself and the plants. So you
Mm-hmm.
control the growth of your plants, which encourages insect life and pollination. And it's interesting, and I will bring this to people's attention. What we've got here in Australia, we have a distinct lack of bees. So bees form a very part of the food chain because they pollinate the plants.
Uh-huh.
The problem we have at the moment, there's very few bees. So in our scraps, which I put out in our veggie garden, and again, we're talking about sustainability.
Uh-huh.
And that's a very key one because when we finish with the scraps, peeling potatoes and things like that, it all goes into a little bucket, and I take it out and I dig it into our veggie garden. Now, what that does, it creates worms, which create fertilizer.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, in one of my dumps into the veggie garden, I must have
Uh-huh.
dumped some pumpkin seeds. So we got a lovely pumpkin vine. It
Oh,
sprouted
lovely.
out, and anyway, I had flowers everywhere, but the
Mm-hmm.
pumpkin would turn up on the female plant flower, and then it'd just shrivel up and die. So anyway, I got my brother-in-law came to visit us, and he said, "Oh no, what you have to do, you have to pollinate it yourself." So
Yeah.
you have a little brush and you go to the male plant, and that has the pollen with it. So you actually
Mhm.
put that on the brush, and then you go to the female plant and you pollinate the female plant, right? And it's amazing. We've now got 5 pumpkins
Hmm.
producing beautifully, right? But again, see, this is sustainability. We can all
Yes.
do that. Even people that live in townhouses and things like that, they can still have a little veggie garden out
Yes.
on their terrace and things like that. And that's what we talk about, true sustainability. And when I mention these things, because I always like to be able to mention a practical example. And there's a classic case of true sustainability, right?
Mhm.
And as we go through, I'll reiterate what I'm talking about in reference to grazing under the canopy. But
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying. When we get
Yes.
people into our platform, we teach them from the very start, we educate them from the very start
Yes.
of what true sustainability is. And the
Mm.
pumpkin plant and the lack of bees at the moment to pollinate the pumpkins is a classic example. You
Yeah.
could do it yourself.
Uh-huh. Spot on, Ian. I remember you've mentioned also before that this is as much about mindset as it is about methods. And, mindset without method is wishful thinking. So, speaking of which, in driving change, you've always emphasized the role of people, not policies alone. So, how does ACI Global's training ensure that individuals at every level aren't just learning definitions of sustainability, but are actually capable of applying those principles in the real world?
Well, this is again leads to me what we first talked about in reference to controlling what's underneath the canopy of our forests.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's different groups that within our society, and one of those big groups are farmers who produce our food.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those farmers have livestock, sheep, cattle, horses, and a lot of them live around forests which have to be maintained. Now, the greatest issue I have in the maintenance and looking after our forests, there's been a very short-term and a lack of educated way of doing things, because basically our legislators have simply said, "Oh no, you have to lock up the forest. Don't mill them. Don't do any control." And that's where you have the problem, particularly very acute here in Australia, because, like I said, we have gum trees form the majority of our forests, and the gums produce oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it becomes highly flammable. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the problem you have with all forests underneath the canopy, and this is a natural phenomenon, because basically that is the way it is meant to be. But the issue that I see, and it's so simple to fix, yes, we need to fence the forest off, right, to control wild animals and so forth. But we need to be able to make our forest available to primary producers so
Mm-hmm.
they can rent. So I'm not saying they do it for free. They
Yeah.
can be charged a nominal fee to pop their sheep in to graze at occasional times and things like that. And people say, "Oh, you'd never find your sheep." Well, if we go back in days gone by, sheep used to
Mm-hmm.
have little bells around their necks so
Mm-hmm.
the herders and the shepherds could find them, right?
Yes.
So that's a nonsense. We can do it if we want to. So what I'm employing is that we open up our forests to primary producers so that they can graze their stock in underneath the canopy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, sheep, cattle, horses, and one of the terrible things that are happening in Australia at the moment, we have our own native animal called the brumby, and a magnificent horse. And what we're seeing now is a lack of application or true application of how to control the brumbies within our natural forest.
Mm-hmm.
So the legislators, their simple idea is, oh, you've got to go out and cull them. So they fly helicopters over them and shoot them.
Uh-huh.
Now, they are a beautiful animal. And again, they form the purpose of controlling undergrowth underneath our forests so we don't have these massive wildfires,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's very much what I'm trying to demonstrate there, is a practical way of looking after our environment,
Yeah.
maintaining our forests, because they form the most important part, our forest and our plant, of photosynthesis, which enables us to grow our food.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's one thing to know about sustainability. It's another to make it a reflex. So thank you, Ian, for elaborating about the forest back there. And that brings us to something quite concerning, the disconnection between policy and practice. So there's been real heartbreaking reality happening in far north Queensland. That so-called green energy agenda has led to catastrophic environmental damage near cairns where wind turbine development bulldoze precious habitat and sacred land. We're talking 1,200 hectares gone. How do we reconcile this kind of destruction being done in the same of sustainability, Ian? And how can better governance and systems thinking, like what ACI Global advocates, prevent this kind of, I'm sorry, hypocrisy from repeating?
Yes, and again, one word, it has to be stopped. We can't just sit back and continue. And again, and it's a privilege for me to head ACI Global and our role in CSR, corporate social responsibility. And it all comes back to that
Yeah.
acronym, CSR, corporate social responsibility.
Mhm.
Now, everyone will see within our environmental operational management system, which is free for people to copy and paste and use, right? They'll
Mhm.
see there is a number of key areas where they address this. And the first part they address it in reference to the governance of their business or themselves, right? So even people that are walking the trails through the forest, and they do see these things happening, right? They've got to be prepared when they get back home to get on the phone, get on the internet, and voice their objection to it because it is
Uh-huh.
completely unsustainable, right? These wind turbines, and the worst possible thing is these wind turbines only last for 10 or 15 years, right?
Mhm.
And then the most incredible thing has to be done. They have to be cleared, right? And if there's going to be another one put up there, which I would object strongly to, right?
Mhm.
But they cost at least $1.5 million each to rectify,
Mhm.
okay, to clear away, okay, because you can't use them again,
Yeah.
okay. But going back to what I said, governance, this is where it comes back. And what I employ people to do is just follow the money. If
Mhm.
you follow the money, it takes you right to the top, and you then talk about, okay, so where this coming from? It's coming from elite people who have millions upon millions of dollars, and they have stated aims, right, to do these things.
Yeah.
Their aim is to make a lot of money out of this,
Mhm.
right? Hence, you come back, and I know it's an analogy, but it is happening. We talk about greenwashing, right? It's
Uh-huh.
the washing of our money. And that's what I want to address towards the end of this episode is the people that are affected are the workers of our countries, right? They're the people that pay it in their taxes. And one of the last things I want to address when we get towards the end of this is who actually pays.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not the elitists, it's not the people that are in high rise office complex and so forth and things like that. It's you and I and our children, and worst of all, it is our grandchildren.
Mhm. Well, I know, Ian, this issue has struck a nerve with many, including yourself, and it really makes us ask, are we solving one problem by creating another? And, this isn't a one-off. Unfortunately, there's a pattern emerging, right? And that one hit deep. It's really hard not to feel a bit betrayed when green starts looking gray. And sadly, it's not an isolated case. Aside from what happened at Mount Kosciuszko, as we previously discussed, now we've got fresh footage from the Great Koala National Park, and it's downright devastating. What do incidents like this tell us about the urgent need for smarter systems and deeper awareness? And how does your work help organizations avoid becoming part of the problem, intentionally or not?
Yeah, it's deeper awareness there, which is the key word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's beholden on all of us because all of us are paying. Okay. Now, in the last instance you just mentioned there, it's the magnificent Australian koala, right? And they're being destroyed. They're actually being culled. And, this is just totally unforgivable. We cannot sit back and allow things like this to happen.
Right.
And this is, again, where we have to, and again, it's a privilege for me to sit and direct ACI Global in this area of corporate social responsibility. We are all responsible. We all have to stand up, hand on heart, and speak loudly and say, no, no, stop now. That is not the way to do it. Now, I've mentioned a number of different ways we can address different issues in reference to the environment. Now, there are a lot of other people a lot smarter than I am that have a lot other smarter ideas, right? That I pre-warn viewers that I saw on the news not so long ago that, someone's come up with a brilliant idea to replace all our forests and all our trees. And it's actually the formation of slime, mind you, slime out of CO2. And it's born out of a desire where certain people in the major cities, there's absolutely no trees, right? Now, the short-term fix to that from these people is, we won't have trees, but we'll have a replacement for trees, which is a way of getting rid of CO2, which is plant food, right? And we'll create slime into that. And I immediately thought, okay, that's fine. So what do you do with the slime, for goodness sake, right?
It's a band-aid solution.
And like you said, it's a short-term fix. We have to go back and we have to employ our town planners and our city planners to develop our cities with trees, plant growing ability where people can grow plants on the verge of their properties and things like this. That's what we have to do, and that's what environmental sustainability is all about. And this is where we all have to speak up. And again, that's why that's one of our greatest aims is to bring people's awareness levels right up so that they empower themselves to speak up against what is happening. And like I said, I employ people to have a look at the instances that I've brought to people's attention. The koala habitat being destroyed, the windmill turbines being put around the mountains in Cairns and the destructions of the mountaintop and Mount Kosciuszko. Those three, and I will just let people know that there will be a link on our website to each of those three cases where I employ them to have a look, come back to LinkedIn or come back to X-Rays, come back to Spotify, read and listen to our chat between you and I, and please repost their disgust at what is happening, because it is disgusting and has to stop.
Yeah, there's a lot. And this entails continuous education, Ian, and not about band-aid solutions or having short-term benefits. It's like what you said before. It's not about trees and terrain. It's about values and mindset. And if we're going to talk about leadership, we can't treat ethics like an optional upgrade. So now, as we reflect on Earth Day and the messes we're still cleaning up, what final word would you give to business leaders who still treat CSR and environmental sustainability like nice to haves rather than need to haves?
Well, sustainability and CSR, corporate social response, is not a must-have. It's not something that you are compelled to do. It is something that is in everyone's DNA. We all have the ability, and this is what we have our brains for. Our brain will tell us what's right and wrong, okay? And quite often you'll see, oh no, you're too far right or you're too far left. What I say is, get back to the basics. We have to look at what is right and what is wrong. There is no grey areas between right and wrong. We have to stay on the right side doing the right thing. Now, it's the right thing. It's in our DNA to be ethical, to be honest, to be passionate, and you put all that together, and that's where we then head and we talk about sustainability. Sustainability has to be our core objective, because again, we have to not only leave our planet for our grandchildren and future generations, but we have to leave our careers for them so they can step in and do those careers. And I go back to artificial intelligence. Be careful, people, because it's a stated aim of certain people in high positions, elites. They want to control, total control of the world, so they want to do that with robots. Again, no, no, no. And do that in a simple way. If someone's telling you the benefits of AI, just ask them, okay, what are the benefits? Oh, it helps us do our jobs. Okay, that's fine. What else does it do? And then I say, well, there's two main things you need to remember with artificial intelligence in reference to employee sustainability is who is controlling that algorithm? Okay. Those algorithms are deliberately set up to control and eventually replace your job with a robot. No, 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 that is not going to happen on my watch. We will give people the tools on our website. Like I say, they can get our environmental operational management system. There's tools there which lead them into understanding governance, understanding putting a foreseeable risk process in place, understanding how to control those risks, understanding how to monitor and verify those issues that we have in a positive way.
Yeah. Again, using our tools and resources ethically and making sure they're sustainable. Well, if this doesn't shake loose a few boardroom priorities, Ian, I don't know what will. So thank you so much for sharing your time, your fierce clarity, and your unwavering commitment to doing what's right for people, for organizations, and for the planet. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate your time despite your busy schedule.
Absolute pleasure. And again, I just employ people to, when the video is produced, have a look at it in Spotify and X-Rays and LinkedIn, and employ you to have a look at the links, the cases which I've brought to people's attention. And I will continue to do this as an advocate of CSR and environmental sustainability.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ian. It's a pleasure to have you again.
Thank you very much, Miles.
Thank you. Woo. So what did we learn today, folks? That sustainability isn't just an initiative, it's a responsibility of each and every one. That you can't call something green while raising forest. That competence, clarity, and common sense are more urgent than ever. And thanks to Ian Erskine, we've also learned there's a way moving forward once that's proven, practical, and principled. So if you want to be part of the solution, if you're ready to take a real stand on CSR and environmental sustainability, Ian and his team at ACI Global are ready to walk that path with you. So check out aciglobal.com.au, learn more about their programs, and maybe enroll in the e-Quip Academy. So that's a wrap. We'll catch you in our next one. Until then, stay sharp, stay sustainable, and for the love of Earth, don't bulldoze a koala's home. This has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X-Raced.